Good morning, guys. In today's video, I'm going to speak about another path, Roman Wiccan. I'm actually still involved in Hellenic Wiccan, and I'm involved in Roman Wiccan. It was actually Hellenic Wiccan that got me curious whether there was a Roman Wiccan. And long story short, I went straight to Medusa in Roman Wiccan, and I was already working with her in Hellenic Wiccan, but now I just strictly work with her in Roman Wiccan, and also with Pegasus. And Pegasus I do work with in Greek, and also Aphrodite, but I don't work with her in Roman. So basically, it was kind of like why I went to Medusa was because it's not like a requested thing, but something had happened when I was a kid, and when I was filming a mythical music episode with my best friend, Pit the Pagan, we were speaking about Medusa, and and I opened up to him about a certain thing that I went through when I was a kid, and it kind of brought back the memory of it, and then I ended up speaking about Medusa, and he said, he could really see it in my eyes, with her, and when I mentioned, he said, yeah, I could really see it, could really tell in your eyes, when we were talking about her. And so, I think that was kind of my calling to kind of go to. It's not a requested thing, when you've been through a tragic event. It's not like a request to work with her, but it does help. But I do use the term work for worship. So what is Roman Wiccan? So I do see the Roman Wiccan pretty much the same as, Hellenic Wicca, but that's just me personally. I know that others will say different, but speak about how I view it. And so there's nothing wrong with being Wiccan and working with the Greek and Roman deities. I am a soft polytheist. I do see them as the same. That's probably why I do see the Roman religion the same as the Greek religion, because of my soft polytheist views, which I can't help. So that would explain why. So in Hellenic Wiccan, it'd be known as the Hellenic Wheel of the Year, and in Roman, it'd be known as the Roman Wheel of the Year. So you'd correspond, like, say, for example, Samhain, with from... So I personally, because I see Aphrodite and Medusa as being universal, they'll be known as underworld deities to me. And there is an underworld aspect to Aphrodite anyway, with her and with Adonis. And I do feel that Medusa does have underworld aspects with her. And, she's also universal, so I'll see her connections with the moon. And she is also connected to the sun. There is actually a picture of her with a lion, which... corresponds to her being involved with the sun, but not many people associate with her being all aspects, which is fine. But I do also associate with her being protection as well. So it's just a little bit about Roman Wiccan. And as you know, the ancient Romans did invade into Britain, so we were all Romanized back in the ancient times. But obviously Roman Britain, Greco-Roman, and Roman Egypt, they're all different. They're not all the same. Different stuffs were happening. So what was happening in Roman Britain wouldn't be the same. What was happening in Greco-Roman and wouldn't be the same that was happening in Roman Egypt. It was all very different. I know that in the UK they built the Hadrian's Wall, and they were in battles over here, and they were doing soft polytheism, so they were mixing the Celtic deities in Roman Britain with the Roman deities. Speaking from a soft polytheist point of view here, so if you are polytheists, then this topic wouldn't be for you. And so they were mixing, giving deities partners. I do like the thought of them having a partner. So Minerva would become Sully Minerva. So they were doing soft polytheism between Sully and Minerva. And they are actually statues of the deities here. We have in York, there is actually a statue of Minerva, which does actually, I can see a lot of Aphrodite in that statue, especially how she was worked with in Sparta. She was actually worked with as a warrior goddess in Sparta, her alongside Ares. And there is a big statue of, I'm off back to York next week on Sunday to go visit the museums. And there is like a lot of artifacts have been found, statues of the deities, even Greek pottery has been found. So yeah, so in today's video, I'm going to speak about what I use to help me with my Roman Wiccan path, which I also can use for my Hellenic Wiccan path as well. So first of all, to start with a dictionary of Roman religion. I have used this one before. I do find it a very interesting book, and I have, as you can see, done my underlining there. It gives you like a history, a little bit of history of the gods and their temples, and where the temples were built. Like it says there, for example, the Roman boy god of love and son of the Roman deities Venus and Vulcan, which is Aphrodite. Cupid is an adaptation of the Greek god Eros, and like him was portrayed with wings and bow and quiver of arrows. Cupids are found as symbols of life after death on coffins, and the symbolism was continued in Christianity, where cupids became winged cherubs. So in Christianity, they changed Eros, because I know Cupid has been Eros, into Christianity is winged cherub. So every time you see a winged cherub, I automatically see Eros, because that's what he originally was. Before the Roman religion went Roman Catholic, when they dampened everything, and yeah, but we all know who's to blame for that. I highly blame Constantine for that, because he was the one that declared Christianity as a mainstream religion, and so he has a lot to answer for. So that's the only reason why I don't like him. But other than that, he was actually quite a good emperor. Well, I think he was anyway. He speaks about Apollo, so I have marked a lot of things in there. Not that I work with Apollo, but if anyone does, I have highlighted some stuff to help them with, because I love helping people in regards to their deities, and I've also marked Aphrodite in there. There is actually a temple of Aphrodite, well, in Rome and Venus, that actually got found in York. She was actually worked with in York, and I recently found out last night in West Yorkshire, because I live near Wakefield. I lived in Featherstone. There was actually a temple in Wakefield dedicated to her and Dionysus, but in Roman there's known as Bacchus, which I found that out yesterday. So it appears that the ancient Romans went as far as West Yorkshire, Wakefield, out of all places, literally near my hometown. So yeah. So that's more about the Roman deity. So I do find this book really handy. It's like a dictionary of the Roman religion. I really do my own thing with Hellenic and Roman Wiccan. I don't play it by the book. You know, even with Titanic paganism, that is strictly my own thing. You know, in pop culture paganism, that is strictly my own thing. Hellenic Wiccan, I make my own. Roman Wiccan, I make my own. You know, I don't really play by the book. You know, I mean, I was a Hellenic polytheist, but I did find that religion was way too strict for me. I do feel a lot more comfortable in Roman and Hellenic Wiccan, because it's very it's a lot more laid back, should I say, and less strict, and I can really make it my own. So this is another one that I use, which is classical mythology, the ancient myths and legends of Greece and Rome. So this is just full of classical artwork, which I do love, which I know that Aphrodite is really interested in classical art. So this is like the mythologies, and this is probably one of my favourite mythology books due to the artwork. You know, I love art like this because it's all classical, and you know, I do love my classical. I think that's probably why I connect to Aphrodite so well, because she's into all classical art and classical music, and so we do have a lot of things in common with each other. We really love this sort of artwork, and this is all classical artwork, and we're into vintage stuff, and Titanic's classical vintage, I would say. So that's probably another reason why I'm so attached and drawn to it, due to that reason. It's got beautiful artwork in here. I would say that even the Roman artwork is quite classical and vintage sort of artwork. But this is the sort of artwork that I love. So this is one of the mythologies that I use. That's Andromeda, Perseus myth. With Medusa, I do follow the Roman Ovid's myth of Medusa. I've always connected to that one ever since I first heard it. So that's the one that I personally resonate with. And another book that I use, which is also one of my favourites, is Greece and Rome, mythology book. I love this one. It's very old. It is actually from 1985, but I love it. Yeah, 1985, and I love it. It's Mythologies of Greece and Rome. This picture actually got in auction for over £2,000. Someone actually won it in auction for over £2,000. This picture of Dionysus and Bacchus in Roman. So this, is also the classical artwork, which I love as well. Beautiful artwork is Greek and Roman. I do feel like Hellenic and Roman Wiccan, they do work very well together. I've got a double dose of freedom. I'm so glad that I got introduced to it it was Hellenic Wicca. Like I say, it got me curious whether there was. And now I said to pick the pagan, I was like, if there is, I'm going straight to it. Double dose of freedom. There's so much freedom in my path, and I just love it. I don't like things that are too strict. Then we've got Jason the Argonauts. Don't worry, that's not a check. That's just a bookmark that I use. And that's the Chimera. So that's another one that I use. And also the one that I do own is Ovid Metamorphoses. I think this is one of the most popular Roman books that a lot of people tend to go to for their myths in Roman. And as you can see, I have marked pages because I have read some, so I do turn to these books as well. As Medea and Jason. And back here that I've also marked would be, let me just get to it here, would be the epilogue, which I marked off because I really like that. So this is another book that I can also recommend to you if you're interested in, Roman polytheism or even Roman Wiccan. Just one of the books that I use for that. And I also do have Marcus Aurelius Meditations book, which I did buy from York Museum because it's got all Roman books in there as well. So I have read some of this. I haven't finished it, but this is all about, his personal thoughts and his meditations. I'm up to book 2 of it. I haven't finished reading it. There's a lot of books I haven't finished reading, but I will get round to reading them all eventually. So this is another book that I can recommend so far from where I've read, which a lot of people will have this one that are in Roman polytheism or just in general, and also in Roman Wiccan. It's another book I can recommend to have to help with your Roman paths. There's also the Aeneid. I've got the Robert Fagel's version, which is the story of Aphrodite's son. I think it's after the Trojan War in Sicily. So another one that could really help with Roman Wiccan is the Aeneid. So I haven't finished reading it yet. I'm on book 3, but this I can also recommend. So the history of ancient Roman that I do turn to quite a lot is Mary Beard, SPQR. I do watch a lot of documentaries involving Mary Beard. She's a really good Roman historian that really, her documentaries are really good, and it's got beautiful artwork in as well. Really classical vintage artwork, which I love. So I do recommend, if you're interested in Roman, ancient Roman, the history of it, I can really recommend Mary Beard. Her documentaries are all on YouTube, and they're really, really good. And I do have another book on Mary Beard, which is Pompeii. I was watching a documentary on Pompeii at 3 o'clock this morning, due to the volcano that erupted in Pompeii. And then much later on in the 1940s, their ancestors endured the same volcano, but it only killed about 20 people, whilst it literally wiped out the entire state of Pompeii. I do follow Pompeii's tradition of universal deities. By the way, if you're wondering where it's all coming from, it's actually from Pompeii. Because in Pompeii, they actually worked with Aphrodite, but they worked with her as Venus in the Roman religion as a universal deity. So this is where I follow the lines of how the Pompeians were doing it. So I kind of follow their tradition of universal. And with me being Wiccan anyway, I do kind of follow that trait, but that's just me being Wiccan and also following the path of the Pompeians, which I would say it's kind of Wiccan based, but there were Roman polytheists, and also Hellenic polytheism were doing it, of seeing Aphrodite as being universal as well. But from most I've heard, it's definitely a Pompeian trait, where it comes from really. And I do love my eyewitness magazines, which I also use as well for the history of Rome. And I do have one in Greek as well. Yeah, I do have one in Greek. And also Women in Ancient Rome book, which I haven't read yet, which I did buy from the museum, York Museum. So from what I can gather from this, which I can also recommend if you're interested in the history of ancient Roman, is how women were portrayed, like in the Familia, which is family in Roman. It's how women were in religion, how women were in the public eye, the brothel, marriages, in the weddings. So yeah, I do, in Gary's language, I do speak a little bit of Italian, and I do speak a little bit of Latin, but it's not stable enough to learn to speak in conversation. I can just say the basic like salve, and ciao, and little bits of sentences here and there. I do speak a bit of Spanish. I have spoken Spanish. And I'm learning new words because someone at work is actually teaching me Spanish, day by day sentences sort of thing. Because again, it's not stable enough to have a conversation, but I can sing fully in Spanish. I'm not a singer, but I can pronounce in Spanish when I sing. But sometimes when I do speak Spanish, I end up saying words in Italian. So the Italian comes out when I'm trying to say words in Spanish. I get mixed up sometimes. Although sometimes when I do speak languages, I can't remember what I've gone and said in English. So there's also that. So I do forget. So yeah, when I was speaking ancient Egyptian, sometimes I couldn't remember what I said in English. So obviously I was saying prayers in ancient Egyptian. I was saying little bits of like sentences in Egyptian, but sometimes I couldn't remember what I've gone and said. So I could have literally said anything in English, and I wouldn't know because I couldn't remember what I was saying in English. So this is just like a brief kind of video, well, 20-minute video, should I say, really, about Roman Wiccan and the books I use and what I could recommend. And so yeah, to help you well in your Roman polytheism or Roman Wiccan journey. You know, I'm fairly new to Roman Wiccan, even though I have been in the Roman religion before. But I was a Greco-Roman polytheism, but it didn't really work out because of how strict it all was. You know, and I kind of just naturally fell out with it, you know, and then, you know, it was my friend Pit the Pagan who noticed that I was getting really involved in all the Wiccan traits, you know, because I was Wiccan back in 2018. It was the first thing I discovered. And my first book I got on Wiccan was Harmony and Ice. I did actually read it all, and I still have the book till this very day, which I was using for all the Sabbaths. That's where I discovered back in 2018 this sort of Wiccan, you know, the Wheel of the Year, which wasn't Hellenic or Roman Wiccan. And so it's kind of my Wiccan traits have never left, should I say. And then I spoke to my friend Pit the Pagan about it, and I was like, you know, can you be Wiccan and work with the Greek deities, you know, like as in Hellenic Wiccan? And he was like, yeah, you know, I was like, because he asked me why did you leave, you know, Roman Hellenic polytheism? And I was like, because it was too strict. And he was like, you're not the first person to say that. Because he had a friend who said the same thing because of all the miasma stuff. It just felt too strict. You know, what I wouldn't consider miasma, you know, there was. And other areas of it was like strict. I didn't feel like I was having a lot of freedom until I naturally fell into Hellenic Wiccan, and then it was Hellenic Wiccan that they introduced me to Roman Wiccan because I ended up being quite curious. And I even said to my friend, if there is a Roman Wiccan, I'm also going to do that as well, you know, double lots of freedom. And he was like, I think there is. And we did have to look into it. It's like there is. So, but a lot of people don't agree with, you know, that Roman Wiccan and Hellenic Wiccan work together, but that's fine. I personally feel it does for me. I don't like strict things, so this is why it benefits and works for me. You know, I don't like strict religion or just anything strict in general, so this is why it fits perfectly for me. So there you go, guys. I'm also going to be doing, you know, Hellenic Wiccan as well to what I use for Hellenic Wiccan, which to help other Hellenic Wiccans out, which you can also use for Hellenic polytheism as well if you wanted to, which will be in the next upcoming video. Alright guys, this is everything for Roman Wiccan, and if you do like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.